welcome to another episode of One on One, where we sit down with some of your favorite hospitality professionals. Today we are with the lovely Joe Osawaye, owner and founder of KIZA Restaurant and Lounge. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Simone.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. Good to have you here.
It is so good to be here. Thank you so much for allowing us into this beautiful space.
Thank you.
How has your day been?
Amazing.
Amazing?
I started quite early, like I normally do.
Uh-huh.
I had a game of golf this morning, played 9 holes quickly before I started my day, and then I rushed in for my different meetings.
Yeah. What does that golf session do for you before you start your day?
Oh, it just puts me in that zone.
That zone.
That zone.
I like that. So, Joe, what I know about you is that you are originally from Nigeria.
Correct.
You have been an entrepreneur for a very long time, and you've brought this establishment that we're in today into the UAE. I want to go back into time a little bit.
Okay.
And I want to know when that F&B bug first bit you. Kind of like, when did you know that you always wanted to do something within the hospitality industry? When did you know that you wanted to become a business owner? Even if it was you as a kid. Tell me everything I need to know about you.
Okay. Where do I start from?
Wherever you want.
Right. I think I am blessed to have come from a business family. My mom was one of the first people that catered for airlines. It used to be called the Nigerian Airways those days in Nigeria. So all the catering for the flights and all that locally, she got involved in that. And then departmental stores, they had the snacks section. So she used to prepare all this and supplied all that. So we got quite early exposure into F&B, not as in restaurant, but bakeries and all that. And then we were involved quickly to start to participate in the business as little as possible. Those days, we used to use paper labels, and we used to write the prices of the cakes and the sausages in those labels. So part of our job was to write the prices on those labels. Then it was like 25K, which is 25 kobo those days. So we got quite exposed to that. Then there were a number of cinemas that we had in Nigeria those days as well. I'm talking about the late 70s, early 80s. We used to supply chocolates and all that to the restaurants and snacks as well.
So I think it's safe to say that you had an entrepreneurial experience quite early on in your life.
Quite early.
That exposure to entrepreneurship at a young age, what does that do for a young man?
It helps you prepare, and it helps you understand how to count the price for the prize. So there's always an effort you got to put into it, and a certain level of sacrifice that you got to put into it. I remember my mama used to wake up quite early in the morning to start baking from about 4 in the morning, so that the suppliers can take it out early, like 7, and it can get to the shelves like 8. She used to spare us, so she wakes up like 4, but we get up at 6 to help her just pack up and get the stuff into the vans that will go do the deliveries. Yeah, so it helps you in the area of discipline, focus at that early age. But the core part is the discipline part. Yeah,
I can see that. Let's talk about what you were doing before KIZA. So if you could give me a little bit of your CV, if you will.
Right. What was I doing before KIZA? I was based in Nigeria. I started a managed services company in the area of telecoms, which I still run since 2004. I also participate in subsea work, oil and gas, which still runs now. So something called ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, where you fly with pilots from a DP2 specialized vessel. You inspect pipelines underground. It's an area in oil and gas called inspection, maintenance, and repair. So you send robots where divers can get to. You send robots in, which are the ROVs. They inspect the pipelines. They give messages back to base, and then you send other robots there to go repair. So it's inspection first, maintenance, and then repair. So we still do that as well. Sometimes I say I wear so many hats. Yeah. So that's what I was doing back home in Nigeria before moving to the UAE. And I still do it. The business is still run till date.
So before we get to the UAE, I mean, that sounds very interesting, by the way. And I think you're right. You wear many different hats because that sounds super technical.
It does.
Very, very high-tech science.
Correct.
I can hear there. I want to talk about the kind of leader you are. How do you inspire people? How do you inspire the teams around you, the people around you? I mean, from what I know in the industry, a lot of people speak very highly of you, and you're always a very self-motivated, positive human being to be around. How do you lead? How would you describe yourself as a leader?
I think my kind of leadership is by example. So what I do, I tend to be the biggest cheerleaders of my teams, whether it's in the oil and gas sector, whether it's in telecoms or hospitality. I think business is mainly about people. Yeah, you have processes, places, and all that. But the core to businesses are people. Once they know that you care so much for them, they'll care for the business as well. So it's showing that you're creating an amiable environment where they can flourish and be the best that they can be as individuals. And I supporting them as much as possible.
It's a beautiful thing, and it's such a simple thing, but we often forget.
Correct. The simple things are the difficult things.
Isn't it true?
Yeah.
But how do you remember that? Because sometimes it gets so crazy, there's so many meetings, there's so much work to be done. How do you stay true to that?
I spend a lot of my time alone. So some people will look at me as an extrovert, but I think I'm more of an introvert. So I spend a lot of time, I live in my mind most of the times. I pre-play a lot of things that happen before it happens. So when it gets to that, I'm already ready. And because I put people first in everything I do, I'm always looking out for them, even when they're not looking out for themselves. I always believe that people can be better than how they are if they have the kind of mentorship and support to get them to that level. So I just constantly do it all the time. Yeah.
That is a very, very true point that you mentioned now. I mean, I spend a lot of time in my head too, but I think sometimes I'd like to get out of there.
That's why I play golf.
Spend too much time there. I think I should start playing some golf with you. Okay, so let's talk about how you came to be in the UAE. So why did you come here initially?
Right. I have a knack for leadership. I visited the UAE first in 2005, and I fell in love with the place. I just fell in love with the place.
Why?
There was something about the place. There was some kind of energy that I resonated with, that I just knew I was going to come live here. So visited first 2005, and after that I was coming to Dubai twice every year since 2005 till I finally moved down 8 years after 2013. So there's something about the place.
So when you moved here,
Yeah.
what were you doing here at the time?
Oh, I set up a real estate brokerage firm first. Okay, I came here to semi-retire.
Joe, I think you might have forgotten that you came to semi-retire because you are definitely not retired.
Yeah, so I played golf for the first 6 months. I moved to Dubai. I played all the golf courses in all the Emirates. Some of the golf courses are closed now. Al Badia was a beautiful one those days and all. So I played golf for 6 months, and then I became bored. Yes, I came to semi-retire, but I just discovered I was not tired at all. So I started to look for challenges. One area I like is spaces. So houses, from concept to reality, I love that. From plans to reality. So I got into real estate, set up a real estate brokerage firm with some friends of mine, did that for a couple of years. And then I hooked up with the true founder of KIZA, my late friend. He passed on early this year, may soul rest in peace, Lukman Akombi. So we were childhood friends since age 10, back home in Nigeria. He moved to Dubai earlier, so all the times I come over, we used to hang out, but we used to hang out in his house. And then after a couple of years, he started KIZA in 2012. I moved in a year after, and connected with him again and said, hey, you know what? This little baby that you just started, we can make it bigger. And then we got together and we moved from where it started first at Utmetha to our present location now, the DIFC.
And how long have you been in this location? in DIFC?
Since 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was it about KIZA that made you want to get involved?
Fubu. Remember the brand Fubu
course
years
I do.
ago?
Used to be my favorite.
Oh, for us, by us. Exactly. That's the main reason. No one was telling the African story the way we wanted to tell it. Initially, we actually brought the whole Afro movement, Afrobeat and all that to the UAE. Years ago, even before KIZA started, we had a place at, I think, H Hotel called Maiki, where we're doing a night called Swagger Sunday. And that used to be the melting point for a lot of Africans because there was nowhere they were playing Afrobeat or no African representation anywhere in those days in Dubai. So we started that, and after some time, they were stopping our friends from coming into our nights. So we say, hey, what's going on here? Well, okay, let us go start our stuff. For us, by us, where every African, Afrocentric person, lovers of Africa can come into one space and be celebrated. And that's how KIZA started in 2012.
I love that. And as an African myself, when I first got to the UAE, KIZA was one of the first places I came to. It has been a place I continue to go to, and I love it because, and I'm a bit selfish, but I don't know anybody else that goes there, so it's like my secret little location, which is changing, by the way, which is good for the brand.
Yeah.
But I really resonate a lot with what you said about creating more African concepts for the African consumer.
Correct.
And even everybody else who's curious and loves the culture and wants to explore and wants to understand the culture.
There's so much diversity in Africa, 54 countries, so much to tell, both from a food perspective, music, fashion, the general culture. There's so much. If we're just scratching the surface. We could tell the story for the rest of our lives over and over and over again.
And it wouldn't be enough.
It would not be enough, correct.
So, leading to my, this is a great segue to the next question that I have, which is, what does KIZA represent? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for the culture, the community, the UAE? What does it represent?
It's a big umbrella. It's a big community for Africans and lovers of Africa. A safe space where you can come and be celebrated. And it's a place where we also do what I call edutainment. It's educating people and entertaining them at the same time. What I found out when I started this KIZA journey was that a lot of Africans were so ignorant about the other parts of Africa. So if you're South African, you have no idea of North, East, West, or Central. So when this journey started, first of all, I got educated by trying other people's kind of food, their style, the culture, the music, and other people were also cross-pollinated with all these ideas from Africa, which is what the education part is, and then the entertainment part, which I call edutainment. So we do a lot of that, and it has helped us open our minds to accepting ourselves as one amazing group of people.
I love that, and it's very true what you're saying. Even within the continent, there's so much of learning and diversity that we can all come to know. In terms of the African hospitality options and concepts that exist within the UAE, based on your own personal on-ground experience, how big would you say is this market? Because, I mean, for me, just not even looking at any numbers, I think it's small, but the potential is big.
Correct. If you're looking at the primary market, it's small, but there's a secondary market. Africa is not for Africa, Africa is for the world. We got 200 nationalities here. What a wonderful place to showcase Africa. And then having had the experience in Dubai, you can go tell the story wherever you're from. Maybe you relocate, you leave Dubai. But we're giving people the opportunity to taste the continent in an upscale way. We're telling a story in a different way. We're making Africa that is already vibey to be understood by a lot of people. Part of what has happened over the years is part of our genre, Afrobeat, has gone mainstream globally.
Big time.
Another genre, Amapiano from southern part of Africa, is just breaking barriers all over the world as well. So we're so blessed to be the ones that have been telling this story for God knows from the beginning in the UAE, and we're still telling the story.
In terms of controlling or curating rather that African narrative in the UAE, we're talking taste, we're talking music, we're talking beautiful spaces like the one we're sitting in right now.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the African cuisine? I know you mentioned a little bit about the music, but take us through the journey in terms of your menu at KIZA.
Right. So for us, we just, as I said earlier, we're just scratching the surface. We've got 54 countries. Within those countries, there's so much diversity. So what we've done is that we've just taken some staples from South Africa. So if you're South African, the pap, the chakalaka, the boerewors, the oxtail and all that.
I'm salivating.
Oh, yeah, great. Great. So if you're from the southern part, you can resonate towards that. If you're from the eastern part, you have your gali, your machoma, kuchumbari, and all that stuff that cuts across. North Africa, the lamb tangine, we have couscous and all that. West Africa, of course, the popular jollof rice, which was originally from Senegal, the jollof people, but Nigerians being who we are, we've hijacked it as ours. So we have a flavor that cuts across the whole continent. At least if you're African, you find something that will be that you'll be used to.
And if you're not African, you have the whole menu.
You have the whole journey to start from South Africa, going northwards, Central Africa, east-west, end up in North Africa, and journey back again.
That sounds like a beautiful journey.
It sure is.
So what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about African cuisine, African music within the hospitality space?
African music has broken the barrier already. So we're good there. African cuisine, because of the diversity, is sometimes confusing. If you're talking about French, it's just one country, France. You're talking Italian, it's one. But when you say African, where do you start from? So it's a gradual introduction from the shallow end to the deep end and all that. So it's a lot of telling the story more people coming into this space, not just KIZA telling the story, but we want more restaurants to come into this space to continue to tell the African story from their own perspective as well. So the biggest challenge is, because we have so much to tell, how to make it much more granular and give them in biteable sizes. And that's what we're trying to do.
Leading to the next question, what more can be done to create more awareness about African cuisine, African experience, African culture, entertainment within the F&B space specifically?
As I said, more people come into this space, more African restaurants come into this space, whether you're from a single country or you want to do what KIZA is doing, the whole global African thing. The more people that tell the story, the more people that will know about it. And then also doing a lot of collaborations with other known cuisine. Like we have some special twists to sushi, which is mainly Japanese, but we have our own interpretation of the African sushi. So things like that, they know what sushi is, but they need to come see what our interpretation of what sushi from an African perspective could be.
Now, Joe, you can't say something like that to me and just leave me hanging on a cliff. Tell me more about this African sushi. Can you describe it? What is in it?
So because we've looked at this space that people don't know about African food, but they know about other flavors. So we said, okay, if you say a burger, you know what a burger is, but let's have a twist and do like a special Wagyu African burger with maybe a lot of spice or something, the way the condiments we use for the meat and all that stuff. So that's what we're looking at. The sushi, we have the both of us, we have the salmon one, and it's prepared our own way, but it's still the same. It looks the same way as what people predominantly know from their experience with sushi.
My God, Budover sushi. I thought I've heard it all.
No.
I certainly have not. That sounds so much fun. That sounds like a very exciting F&B experience.
Correct. It sure is.
You mentioned before what more can be done is more African concepts coming to the UAE, more collaboration. Realistically, how easy or difficult is it for that to happen?
It depends on your passion. No one ever said it was going to be easy. But if you do it well, it could be worth it. So in coming into this space, you're not talking about a dash, you're talking about a marathon. So you got to be able to pace it in your mind that you're not looking at 1 year. You're looking at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's not a get rich quick thing. You got to be passionate about it. If you're not, it's one of the most difficult businesses you can get into. The restaurant business, F&B business. So it's not child's play. If you're passionate about it, there's still space to tell the story.
You spoke about your journey with your partner.
Yes.
Since 2012.
2012, yeah.
And you mentioned that he's late. He
Yes.
passed away last year.
Early this year.
Early this year.
Correct.
What's it been like for you to carry on this legacy without your partner in crime, if you will?
First of all, I salute his vision. And that's the thing about vision. Someone starts it and others run with it. As long as the idea is authentic and real and people can connect with it, if you do it properly, it should outlive you. So for us, one of the biggest things for me now, it's always been, but it was cemented when I lost my brother, my friend, Lukman, is legacy. Giving back to the next generation and showing them that it's possible to do things in an excellent way, so that you set a proper foundation so that when you're no more in this space, there are other people that can run with this idea and even make it bigger than what you started with. So for us, mentorship is big. The mentorship prodigy relationship is big for us. Leadership is big. Vision is big for us. Setting up the right foundations that will stand the test of time is also key for us. So that's what we look at going forward: legacy and the right foundation to take it to the next level.
You've mentioned different forms of mentorship quite a few times in this interview, and you speak very passionately about it, which leads me to believe that it's one of your key priorities as a leader.
Most definitely.
How do you do mentorship? Can you tell us a little about maybe some of the young prodigies that you do mentor right now?
Right. First of all, I said earlier on that it's by example. So I like people to read me as the example before I say it, so that they already observe before you say it, because people do not what you say, but what they see you do, like kids. Yeah.
True.
So if you say there is a prize for diligence, for them to understand you got to be diligent as well first. Then they start to see when you say there's a reward for persistence. They've seen you go through different oscillations in the business, different hills and valleys, especially during COVID. A lot of the restaurants in this building closed, but we're still here and we're still pushing and waxing. So that determination, that persistency, that grit, that belief and sacrifice and understanding, as I said before, it's a marathon, not a dash. When they see you live that way, it's easy for them to connect. It's not abstract anymore. It's something they see as an example. So when you say, you know what, guys, this is where we're going. These are the price we need, the price we need to pay to get the prize. They understand because we've done it over time. We had something we're doing at one time where we encourage young Africans that are coming into this space. Sometimes you're coming from not a too international environment. So we help them in onboarding. So we created a program in KIZA where freshers from Africa, young kids from Africa, are tutored how to engage in an international space like Dubai, like starting from the CVs, understanding their true traits on their HR and all that. So we get HR consultants to help them work on that. And I do a lot of one-on-one mentoring. I do a lot of speaking sometimes to just encourage people and tell them that it's possible.
Because I guess you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And exposure is sometimes the only thing, like you mentioned, you do by what you see.
Correct.
So giving them that exposure must be incredibly helpful for them, especially if they haven't grown up, you know, in entrepreneurial environments.
I hope so.
I think so. It sounds like it. So this particular room that we're sitting in now,
Yes.
can you describe it a little bit? Because this is KIZA Bespoke.
Yes.
What does that mean?
KIZA Bespoke, as the name entails, it's making your fashion dream come to life. So bespoke, specially for you, made for you. This space is what I call our lounge, where we talk about fashion, talk about clothes, fabrics, just chill and just enjoy this space and discuss on bespoke tailoring and all that kind of stuff, lifestyle.
So
Yeah.
what I'm gathering now is that you have across from this room, KIZA's restaurant and lounge, where you get to indulge in this amazing menu, incredible music, and then you come here and then it's African fashion, African
Correct.
prints.
Correct. Not just African prints. It's for everybody. We bring your fashion fantasy to life. So it's a combination between fast forward fashion and bespoke tailoring, traditional bespoke tailoring. So you have an idea in your mind. We'll help you with the fabrics. We have a stylist in the house that will help you with the fabric, what goes with your complexion and all that, what time of the year you're going to be using the fabric and all that stuff. So we'll take you through a journey and an experience where you now choose what is for you, bespoke, tailored for you.
Yeah, that sounds very tailored. I think that's a very good definition of tailored, actually.
Yeah.
What are the plans for KIZA in the future?
KIZA restaurant, we want to be able to plant that idea in most major cities in the world. One of the things I do once I go to a new city is to look for an African restaurant.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I need to go check out what they're doing and see what's available. And so far, I think we're doing a pretty good job in what we're exhibiting here in Dubai. A lot of people come from far and wide and they say, when are you coming to our city? So there's that yearning for us to go to different cities, and it's in our strategy document on spreading out this community good news, African vibe and culture globally.
You mentioned that when you go to a new country, the first thing you do is find an African restaurant.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult is that to find?
Sometimes it's difficult. I remember when we went for the World Cup in Brazil, and we were in Sao Paulo, and we're looking for an African restaurant. And we drove and drove and drove and drove. We checked it first on Google, and having driven for about 45 minutes, we got to a place and it was closed. It wasn't existing anymore. So sometimes it's difficult. Yeah, but what do? Check Google, ask people around, and just try to navigate.
And you eventually found an African restaurant in
No, we
Brazil?
did not. We found a makeshift restaurant because the World Cup was going on. There were a lot of Nigerians there. Some lady just organized something and said to cook Nigerian food.
They made a plan.
They made a plan.
So there's a market. There's a market for some African cuisine.
Yeah, there's a market. There's a market. More in some places and less in other places.
Now, Joe, my final question for you before we get into a little fun segment that we have prepared.
Right.
You came here to semi-retire.
Correct.
That did not happen.
No, I did not.
So what is next for you?
Oh, I will never retire. I know that now.
So
will
what are you
work-
going to do?
I'm going to be expanding this vision globally. There's so much to do, especially in the African space, telling the African story. What I would also love to do is to work with governments. We have so much potential in each of the African countries that we can showcase to the world. But there's just this lethargy. No one is just doing it. So maybe we can prop them and say, hey, you know what? Look at your shoreline. Look at the weather. Look at all what you got. Let's put some investment into this and boost tourism and all that, so that people come from around the world to see our beautiful continent.
So personally for me, I'm glad that you're not going to retire because I want to see that. I want to see that. I want to see that happen. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure sitting here and talking to you about African cuisine and African entertainment and what we represent in this F&B space.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before you leave,
Yes.
you're not out of the hot seat just yet.
Not yet?
Yes. So we've got this really fun segment that we do after we interview everybody.
Okay.
So it's this or that questions.
All right.
So I'm going to shout out some things to you, and without hesitation, just pick the one that resonates the most.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Day or night?
Day.
Sugar or spice?
Spice.
Obviously. Red or white?
White.
Guacamole or salsa?
Salsa.
City view or ocean view?
Ocean view.
Perfect. I should have said jasmine rice or jollof rice. I'm kidding. That would have been an easy one.
But you'd have done city view or golf view.
Oh, yeah, I should have done city view. Okay, I'm going to make a note, actually. The next golfer that I interview, I'm asking him that.
Right.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you very
It's
much.
It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure's mine.